Another year at Lumon has come to a close, leaving us with more answers and yet somehow more questions than ever before. The Eagan family experienced some major losses in their war to eliminate emotions and create the perfect, feelingless workforce, but things aren't all sunshine and roses for the good guys.
You and your family created hell, and you're going to burn in it.
An enraged Helly R tells Jame Eagan in the beginning of Severance's Season 2 finale. But will they?
What do you want from me?
Let's dig in. We learn a lot about what's going on at Lumon before the credits roll on Season 2. We've spent almost 4 years wondering what the hell that Macro Data Refinement team was doing on the severed floor, and it turns out that every time Mark and his team complete a new file, they create a new consciousness for Mark's wife, Gemma. The numbers, we've learned, were Gemma's emotions, which is why Mark, the person who knew and loved her the most, was integral to the success of the project. It turns out that the Severance procedure was just a stepping stone to Lumon's ultimate goal, eliminating all human emotions to create the perfect laborer. No joy, no passion, no rage, no sadness, just unlimited free labor from people the company has managed to disappear. And the goats? Turns out all of our theories were wrong, and they were just run-of-the-mill sacrifices. I'm currently unsure as to whether or not I'm disappointed or amused by this development, but I am pleased that we saw Gwendolyn Christie's Lorne have her moment in the sun. Though that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. Back to Jimma and Mark. The beginning of the finale features a fun back and forth between Mark and Mark S via camcorder recordings as they fight over what to do. Mark needs his wife to be saved, while Mark S is unwilling to murder all of his friends and commit a suicide mission to do the saving.
You know what I think? I think the second you get your wife back, you forget I ever existed. I think that I disappear along with every innie down there.
Severance's running theme of autonomy comes to a head here, as both parties are correct as they fight about their complicated catch-22. Even Miss Cobell tries to convince Mark S, explaining to him that he and his friends are dead anyway once Cold Harbor is complete.
You will have served your purpose.
No matter what he does, even if he refuses to finish the project, there will be no more innies the following day. But it isn't until Mark S sees Helly that he makes his final decision. After her fight with her father, Helly is ready to, well, raise hell. She tells Mark that they're all dead anyway before leading a rebellion with the help of Dylan G, who makes a triumphant return by slamming a vending machine into the door that Mr. Milchick is trying to escape through in order to stop Mark S from rescuing Gemma. Mark S successfully makes it down the dark hallway, navigating to the lower floor where he becomes his Audi again. But none of that is important now. Let's talk about the goats. On his mission to get to Gemma, Mark has to get through Mr. Drummond. Unfortunately for Drummond, but very fortunate for Mark, Drummond was trying to kill Lorne's favorite goat.
This beast will be entombed with a cherished woman, whose spirit it must guide to Kyr's door.
Whatever all that means. Lorne helps Mark.
No more killing.
Mark takes Drummond hostage, and then he accidentally murders him with a weird goat gun when changing back to his Audi. Is your head spinning yet? Welcome to Severance.
Emil thanks you. Emil is the name of the goat.
Mark makes it to Gemma, managing to stop them before what's left of her is gone forever. The two run back to the severed floor, becoming Miss Casey and Mark S, while Gemma and Mark were making out in the elevator. And somehow make it to the stairwell where Mark S coaxes Miss Casey through the door, but turns just in time to see Helly, or Helena, more on that later, waiting for him at the end of the hall. In what feels like a 10-minute scene that was likely only a minute or so, Mark S ultimately runs to Helly, leaving Gemma begging her husband to come with her on the other side of the door, as his innie and the woman who helped cause all of their suffering run off into the proverbial sunset. In a series full of mysteries, sometimes the answer is just that it isn't that deep. Please see the aforementioned goats. In the case of Lumon targeting Gemma, that very much seems to be the case. While many fans, myself included, found ourselves wrapped up in the idea that Lumon's goals were rooted in reproduction and immortality, we now know That is definitively not the case, at least as far as Gemma Scout is concerned. For now, it seems that Gemma was only targeted because of her involvement with the Lumon-owned fertility clinic. First moments of the finale gave us an answer as to why Helena Eagan seemed off when visiting her father in last week's episode. The dude just hates her.
I used to see care in her, but he left her as she grew.
Now he sees that light again in Helly, who is, as you'd expect, nonplussed by the compliment.
God, you're f***ing weird.
But while we now know the root of the daddy issues, I'm still not sure we didn't see Helena Eagan in this week's episode. Last week, I questioned whether we spent time with Helly or Helena throughout the episode, with Dylan G bringing up the fact that nobody but Irving could tell the difference between them and her acting weird all episode. The beginning of the finale signals that she is 100% pure Helly R, as she tells her father that he and the family are going to burn and rallies the resistance against Mr. Milchick. It seems that she continues to be Helly as she tells Mark he has to go through with saving Jimma even though all the innies will die. But in that moment, she is at peace with the decision, and later things seem to take a shift. Mark's standing at the stairwell with Gemma, watching his Audi's wife beg him to come with her. Then Helly, who had previously said her farewells to Mark, runs to the end of the hall and stares at him, willing him to choose between the two of them. While I suppose it's possible See You at the Equator could have been them making a plan for the rendezvous point. The equator divides the hemispheres, like the door that divides innies and Audi. I don't know. Everything feels like a stretch on the show right up until it doesn't. The point is, this scene just feels off. I don't know if it was Helly wanting to die with her boyfriend or the Eagans overriding the situation to have Helena take over in order to keep Mark hostage. But I do know that if it was Helena, then her motives remain in question. How long do you keep drinking the Kool-Aid when daddy hates you? The other key question here is what happens to Gemma after their departure. Will Lumon goons swarm her in the hallway? Will she somehow manage to escape the facility she has zero familiarity with undetected? Are Miss Cobell and Devon waiting for Gemma and Mark outside? I have a lot of logistical questions and even more frustrations about where we left things. What a character Dylan's become as we've watched him evolve from selfish busybody to an active rebel against Lumon's injustices. Season 1's overtime protocol never could have happened without him, and after finding out he was being forced to continue to live against his will, or rather encouraged to go on living by his Audi.
I've read your request and organized my response into 3 points. Point 1, you.
He chose to fight rather than wallow. The end of the innies would be a devastating development for a multitude of reasons, but none so much as the loss of Dylan G, who has learned not to just love, but that loving anything, whether it's friends, partners, work, etc., means fighting for it.
You, Mr. Milchick.
A true fussy king.
Hello, Dylan.
Mark S. and the innies are perhaps the biggest reason this story needs to keep going. We have answers, but we don't have the answers. What are the answers? I don't really know, but I know that we don't have them and that I need them. Mark S. has sent a person who could end Lumon's existence out into the world with a story that can be corroborated by the woman who created the severance procedure and the pissed-off sister of a man still being held prisoner. Justice rarely comes for corporations, of course, and Lumon will surely find a way out of whatever PR and legal disasters they find themselves in. But that doesn't change the fact that they have a very large number of people within their walls that they no longer want to let out, and a lot of people who love them on the outside. Freeing them isn't an option, because right now there's no existing plot device that would allow them to keep on living outside of the severed floor. Keeping them prisoner has more drawbacks than benefits, so that doesn't seem to be the move either. Then, there's the added complication of their interpersonal relationships. While there's been no mention of it since Mark initially had sex with Helena and then Helly, there is a significant chance that, when the show continues, Gemma will have to deal with the fact that her husband successfully got another woman pregnant. A result that has so many implications that it would take a whole other 2,000-word editorial to break down. Everyone's fate remains the biggest question remaining in the show, but one thing's for sure. Gemma is going to need just so much therapy. Just so much. Speaking of uncertain fates, Irving did not have a role in Season 2's finale. He seemed at peace on the train in the previous episode as he rode into the sunset with his dog, knowing that the man he loved him in return, but wasn't brave enough to come along.
My innocent part fell in love with you.
Or perhaps knew if he did, it would be the end of both of them. But, at peace or not, it's hard to imagine Severance without his presence. It seems likely that Irving will take over Cobell's narrative in Season 3, in that we don't see him for 90% of the season, but he pops back in when we least expect it and drops a major bombshell on the mystery.
I'm ready.
For more on Severance Season 2, check out our roundtable with the cast, and for everything else, stick right here at IGN.